So, viewer from Becker wants to know about, we're going to talk more generally about transportation here, but we've got several questions coming in. A viewer from Becker wants to know about raising the gas taxes when the prices are low. What do you do when the gas prices are high? Obviously, that viewer's concerned about gas taxes. We have others who are concerned about bridges and roads. Let's talk, I guess we'll start with you, Representative. What's your thoughts on this transportation, and where do you think we might wind up when all the dust settles?
Well, I don't know where we'll end up, but I know where I hope we end up. Minnesota needs a long-term, comprehensive solution to the transportation challenge. Where I live, people are ready for this, and I think they recognize it. Highway 14 goes through my district, and we made progress on it. We secured funding in the last session to $300 million towards the corridors of commerce, and part of that money will be extending 4-lane from North Mankato to Nicollet. And that's a stretch of road that is not only about carrying goods, but it's also kind of a soul-felt stretch of road, because we've had some really serious fatalities. And it's time to get that road done. And we've been waiting for 50, 60 years to get the 4-lane completed from New Ulm to Rochester. And this is the time to do it. I believe that Minnesota has had a thorough discussion, and I think Minnesota understands we need to improve our transportation. There's traffic on the rail, there's traffic at the port, there's traffic on the rivers, and there's certainly a lot of traffic on our roads that needs to be addressed. I think it needs long-term, dedicated funding, and sufficient funding so we know we can do that. I'm concerned that we're going to take the easy way out and fall back to a short-term solution that will not provide the ongoing funding that we need. And it needs new funding, and I think some sort of a gas tax is where that goes. My neighbors talk about, we understand the gas tax, it's dedicated to roads, and I think there's a lot of support for that out there. And I think it's time for us as a legislature to be mature about it, make that step, and make that long-term investment.
Representative Anderson, your thoughts?
For the average family that has 4 drivers in their household, they're talking about a $1,200 increase that they're going to be paying because of the gas tax that Governor Dayton is proposing. That's after increasing their taxes by $2.1 billion over the last 2 years. I just read an email before I got here tonight that said, "You're breaking me. This is enough. I can't do this anymore. Stop with the taxes, and in particular the gas tax." And when you look at it, the state, I think we've got the state and the federal, that's 18 cents and 28 cents. At a minimum, what he's proposing is a 16 cents. But that's at the floor of gas being $2.50. Well, we just experienced where gas was around $1, what was it, dollar whatever.
$1.90.
$1.90. It wouldn't be taxed at that level. It's going to be taxed at $2.50. So once it goes up to $4, they're going to be paying even more in a gas tax. And I think the people have said, you know what, I paid in a lot of money, I'm not seeing the results. I think that they would rather see us prioritize our spending overall. When you're spending $137 million in a Senate office building, people say enough is enough. You need to spend your money where the priorities are, and that's roads and bridges. So we have a lot of room for improvement.
Senator?
Well, I come at it from a different angle, because we can throw numbers around, and they don't really mean anything until we really come to agreement what we need. And I think the reality is that we don't have enough funds, but there's bipartisan support to acknowledge the fact that we have a report that looked at this for a long time with experts and industry leaders, and we realized that we did need extra additional investment. That just keeping the lights on isn't enough to keep Minnesota in the right direction in terms of our economic viability and to attract people to our state and to keep them here, particularly millennials. So, you know, roads, bridges, transit, pedestrian, bike, all of that needs to be on the table, and it is. I think the Senate has a really strong package. It's the first option in terms of a starting point of a discussion. It's not going to be what we're going to see at the end of the day. We all know that, but it certainly tries to address the entire needs of the state, not just metro and suburban and rural, but ports and airports. It tackles all of the infrastructure investments when it comes to transportation for our state, and it's long overdue. So I'm looking again, same as Representative, in terms of having a 10-year plan. I'm not interested in a short-term solution. I'm not interested in a fictitious solution of trying to use GEO bonds or trying to use general fund dollars. We've used it before. We've exhausted it. There's not enough money there to really fill the gap and the need that we know exists in our transportation infrastructure. So I'm looking for a long-term plan, and I'm not looking for a lights-on plan, and I want something to be comprehensive to tackle all the roads, bridges, transit, bike, pedestrian, and it's going to have to, the money's going to have to come from somewhere, and I think as long as we make the argument that you're going to get value for your tax dollars, I think people will understand that. I have dozens of emails every week on transportation, and I am taking the time to educate the public where the tax dollars come from, where they're going. People are curious. They want to know the facts and the numbers, and I'm more than happy to provide them to it so that we have a better discussion about the needs of our state, and then we can come to a resolution that we can all agree on.
Well, there's no doubt that transportation is one of the key issues that is the responsibility of the Minnesota state government, roads and bridges particularly. And we also know that commerce rides on transportation. People ride on transportation to get to those jobs or to get to their schooling. So transportation and a reliable system is absolutely key. But I think in light of a $2 billion tax hike in the last budget session, one of the biggest tax hikes in the history of our state, one would have hoped that that priority would have been prioritized. And I want to say that I really like what the governor said when he was in Rochester for his first debate during the campaign season. When asked about the gas tax, at that point, he said, "I believe that Minnesotans have been taxed enough, and I'm not interested in increasing the gas tax." Well, that was a few months ago. And so let's talk about that governor's gas tax proposal. It is problematic, even if you thought there should be a gas tax increase. And that's because it's like a sales tax on a gallon of gas. So it goes up. As the price goes up, that percentage amount increases dramatically. So consumers would get kind of a double hit in their pocketbook. They would get the hit from higher per gallon gas prices, plus the increased gas, the percentage on that would be an increased amount. So, in fact, the governor's proposal with our state and federal tax would be 60 cents a gallon on tax. 60 cents a gallon just in tax. So I think that is problematic just on the face of that. But then, of course, we have the entire issue that, one, gas taxes are one of the most regressive type of taxes. Mm-hmm. They hit the poorest the hardest. They often drive the less efficient vehicles. It's a greater percent of their income. And then lastly, if we're talking about a permanent solution, believe me, the gas tax isn't it. It is a declining source of revenue. So I'm all about a permanent solution and a 10-year plan, but the governor's gas tax is not it. So there will be other proposals, and I think we'll discuss those. And I do think at the end of the day, we will not be seeing the governor's gas tax proposal.
I just want to correct something. We hear a lot of numbers, and I had a gentleman in my office today, a constituent of mine, and he had done some calculating. So he said, well, if you drive 12,000 miles a year, which is what a lot of people would drive, get 30 miles to a gallon. A lot of cars now get about 30 miles to the gallon.
The new ones.
$66 a year. That's about that's a little about buck and a quarter a week, less than a cup of coffee that I pay when I. And so I think we know, where I live, people understand a pretty basic tenet. You get what you pay for. And I think we know that if we're going to invest in our roads and we're going to make our transportation system, the system that we really need to move our economy forward, move people, move goods, we need to make an investment. And I just think this is the year to do it. The economy is healthy. The price of gas is low. I think we should go after it, and I hope we can. Do it.
And I think we should have an honest conversation with people and with constituents about where the money's coming from, where it's going, and being transparent, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And transportation infrastructure funding wasn't partisan. It's become more and more toxic and partisan as in the recent years. But it used to be something that we could all agree on, that we needed to invest in. And now we're just not on the same side of that equation. And I think we just need to find a way that we can do this again together. Because I think, again, if we demonstrate the value, if we're transparent about where it's coming from, where it's going, I think the people would certainly have a different opinion than just rely on misinformation, and there's a lot of it out there. So I think our job as legislators is to educate our constituents on the facts, and there's different numbers and proposals that are thrown out there, but at the end of the day, it's not the proposal that's going to pass, so it's going to take negotiation, it's going to take time, but let's have an honest discussion about the numbers as well.
Well, I think the public, though, when you're looking at this issue, don't feel that they're getting what they pay for. And this week was a prime example with the commissioner raises. They don't expect that their tax dollars are going to be used for compensation packages. They're expecting that it's going to go into our roads and bridges. So I think that we're losing faith with the public when we do those kinds of actions and not actually focus it towards the priorities and the infrastructure of the state.
So just so that our viewers understand, I want to take a run here at making sure we adequately explain what the governor's proposal is, recognizing that the legislative process may lead in a completely different direction. But his proposal, as I understand it, is what essentially is a wholesale tax. And that's something a little different, which we haven't seen before. And those numbers may change depending on the price of gas and whatever level that tax might be set at. Have I correctly described
It's
it?
at $2.50 is the floor. So anything, even if the price of gas is $1.90, you're still going to be paying that wholesale tax at $2.50. And then if the price of gas is $4, you'll be paying the wholesale tax at the $4.
And the thing to know about that wholesale tax, it's not like the cents per gallon that we're used to. It is a percent of the cost. It's 6.5% of the cost. So you can tell that 6.5% of $2.50 is 16 cents. How much is that tax going to be when gas goes up to $4 a gallon? That's where that double effect hits.
The percentage doesn't change, which I think you said earlier, but what
Yes.
you meant is the amount changes.
The amount that you pay,
Right.
6.5% of $2.50 is 16 cents. 6.5% of, I haven't done the math, $4 is significantly more.
I'm a political science major, so we'll leave
Okay.
we'll leave the math on
to
it.
someone else.
All right.